All right, everyone, welcome back. We're going to be taking another deep dive today.
Excited to jump into this one.
Yeah, this one's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at the Spiz by Twisty
Okay.
and this concept of being a power grid.
Yeah.
I thought it was such a fascinating metaphor.
It is, yeah.
Instead of just being plugged in, you're the power grid for your clients and your team,
Yes.
your mission, everything. So I thought it'd be interesting to unpack that a little bit. So what happens if you go down, like if you're the power grid and the city's relying on you, what happens and how can you stay aligned to keep everything growing?
I mean, just think about it for a second. Like imagine like a city power grid going down.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the chaos, the disruption, the loss of essential services.
Yeah, everything stops.
Everything stops.
Right.
And it's the same thing in a way for individuals when we're not aligned, when our personal power grid is down. It can lead to breakdowns in our lives. You know, our work, our relationships, our overall well-being.
It's like the whole system crashes.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so powerful about this idea of seeing yourself as the power grid. It's a shift from feeling like you're just a cog in the machine or even just receiving energy to recognizing that you are essential.
Right, you're not optional.
You are not optional. You're the source. You're the one keeping everything running.
So how do we do that? How do we become that reliable source of energy for everything and everyone that we're supporting?
Well, it starts with understanding what makes up our personal power grid, right? And in the Spiz Twisty talks about a few key components.
Okay.
It's our values are our core energy source, right? That's the foundation that generates everything else.
Okay.
Our habits are like the transmission lines. They're carrying that energy, making it usable in our daily lives. And then you've got
back up.
Our relationships, right? Those are the points where energy is distributed and where it has an impact on the world around us.
So it's almost like the substations,
exactly.
where the energy is being transferred and distributed to where it needs to go.
Yeah, it's a beautiful analogy. And when all of these components are working together in harmony, that's when we're truly aligned. And that's when we can really show up as our best selves.
Okay, so let's say we've got our power grid humming along, everything's working great, but then boom, power outage.
Oh.
What are some of those things that cause those outages in our personal grid?
I mean, just like in a city, there can be, multiple causes, but one that Twisty really highlights is overcommitting.
Okay.
When we're juggling too many projects, spreading our energy too thin, that's like overloading a circuit, right? Things start to break down.
Oh, yeah.
We burn out, we get overwhelmed, and that's when the power goes out.
I definitely felt that one. Like when you say yes to too many things and you're like, wait a minute, I can't actually do all this.
Exactly. And it's not always about doing less. It's about aligning our actions with those core values, that core energy source.
Right.
Remember, we talked about that.
Yeah.
If we're saying yes to things that drain us or don't truly resonate with who we are, it's like trying to power a city with a weak generator, right? It's just not going to work.
Yeah, you're trying to run the whole city on a hamster wheel.
Exactly. It's not sustainable.
So boundaries, right? Like how do we set those boundaries to kind of prevent those overloads from happening in the first place?
Yeah, boundaries are huge, and they're like those circuit breakers in the system that are designed to protect us.
I'll make that.
It's about recognizing those energy drains and consciously choosing how much we engage. And sometimes it's about limiting contact with certain people or situations, or, maybe it's about shifting our own mindset so we don't get pulled in so easily.
I think that's a big one, right?
Yeah.
Learning how to not get sucked in
to
all those things that drain our energy.
It's a skill.
Yeah, definitely a skill.
For sure.
So we're talking about, keeping the city safe from overload.
Yeah.
Maintaining these connections.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a little bit of a superhero theme here. And I think that's actually, kind of reflected in what Twisty says in the book. Let me see here. He says, you're the utility that keeps everything running. The energy that keeps people moving, the alignment that keeps systems compliant, the spark that always leads to more. I mean, do we need capes at this point?
Maybe a metaphorical cape, right? But the sentiment is so powerful because when we're aligned, when our power grid is strong, we become that reliable source of energy that not only helps us thrive, but helps others achieve more too. It's like we're powering up the whole city.
I love that idea. When you're aligned, you're actually helping the people around you achieve more.
Absolutely. Because it's not just about our own well-being, it's about the ripple effect we create, right? When we're running smoothly, our team runs smoothly, our projects stay in momentum, our relationships flourish, it's all connected.
It's like that rising tide lifts all boats
kind
of situation. So this also impacts how we communicate, right?
Mhm.
Like this being this nice to have, we become indispensable. Like you can't run this city without me.
Yeah.
100%, right? It's about recognizing our own value and communicating that clearly to others. We're not just offering a service, we're providing an essential element for growth and success.
So I think that's a really important point. Like, how do we actually get that across to other people?
It's about confidence. It's about clarity. It's about setting those boundaries we talked about.
Yeah.
It's about showing up consistently as that reliable source of energy.
So for our listeners out there, how does this translate into action? Like, what can they actually do besides maybe, invest in a cape?
Right. Well, it starts with being mindful of those values that we talked about.
Sure.
What is that core energy source for you? And then setting those clear boundaries so you're not overcommitting and draining your energy, and then communicating competently, right? Both with yourself and with others about what you need and what you bring to the table.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That communication piece, I think, is really key. It's essential because, we can't expect people to just automatically understand our value. We have to articulate it and
Yeah.
just show up in a way that reflects that value.
So it's not just like, okay, I have value.
Right.
It's like, I have value, and this is why, and this is how.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process. It's not like you set it and forget it. It's, like you said, just like a power grid. It's constantly adapting to changing demands. So we have to be willing to adjust our own personal power grid as we go.
So it's like a constant recalibration.
Yes.
Making sure that, okay, is everything still lined up the way it should be? Am I still providing the energy where it needs to go?
Yeah. And are you taking care of your own energy needs as well, right? Because you can't pour from an empty cup.
That's right. That's right. So it's almost like, being the power grid is a superpower in and of itself.
It is. It really is. And it's one that we all have access to.
Right.
It's just about tapping into it.
So to sum it up,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, aligning yourself like a power grid, it's not just some abstract concept, right?
No.
It's about becoming the most effective and impactful version of yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe having a little bit of that superhero swagger along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. So as we kind of wrap things up here, any final thoughts for our listeners to kind of, take away and start applying in their own lives?
Yeah. I would say think about one area where you're feeling drained or misaligned right now.
Okay.
And how can you become the power source for yourself in that area this week?
Oh, I like that.
Maybe it's setting aside time for recharging, Maybe it's saying no to an energy draining commitment, or even just simply reaffirming those core values. Remember, you have the power to light up your own life and the world around you.
I love that. And on that note, we'll wrap things up here. Thank you all so much for joining us on another deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.